other types of birds, owls will not be attracted to your yard with typical bird feeders. These mostly nocturnal birds like to eat rodents and are not likely to hang out in your backyard for a lengthy amount of time. Another way to attract owls is to provide shelter for them. Shelter and nesting sites can be most easily provided by leaving dead trees in your yard as long as it's safe to do so. Nest boxes can be used to attract some owls, for example, placing the box in a wooded area instead of a more open area. Bright lights deter owls, so another way to make your backyard more appealing to owls is to dim the lights in the evening. I'm Kathy Isom, Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Today will be mostly cloudy with a thunderstorm this afternoon and a high of 85 to 89, then a couple of evening showers, otherwise mostly cloudy tonight, low 74 to 77. Mostly cloudy Wednesday with a couple of thunderstorms, high 85 to 88, then very cloudy on Thursday with a couple of showers and spots and thunderstorms likely, high 90 to 93. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Holly Holdren.
It's rodeo time in Ocala. The 39th annual Ocala Shrine Rodeo returns to the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion September 3rd and 4th, 7:30 nightly. Witness the superstars of the PRCA as cowboys ride to help children walk. For tickets and information, check out OcalaShrineRodeo.com for broncs, bulls, and babes. The Ocala Shrine Pro Rodeo, September 3rd and 4th, 7:30 nightly.
Auto repair with personal care. We know what we're talking about. Matt Gibbs and the guys over at Sunrise Automotive will treat you right. We'll treat you right.
That's right. It's Matt Gibbs with Sunrise Auto repair with personal care. Matt is in studio with us. Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Tom. How are you?
Good. If you want to talk to Matt, 622-9622 is the number to call. You know, a day like today, Matt, with the rain, and I mean, it rained all night last night. Yep. Puddles, just a lot of water on the roadway and all. Lynn's one to think about. This is a good time to check that little thing to see if your tires are good. And I want to ask you, is the Lincoln penny a good test for the tire?
It is. It is.
That's a life hack. You turn the penny upside down. If Lincoln's head disappears,
you're good.
You're good.
Yeah. Or just bring it by Sunrise. We'll tell you if it's good or not.
but I mean, somebody told me just take a penny, and if Lincoln's head goes in the tread, you can't see his head.
Okay,
you got enough tread.
But there is a little trick to that. If you look at the tires, in the tread there'll be a little line that goes across the tread.
Right.
That's your wear indicator.
Oh yeah, the little line in the tread.
Yeah,
like a little line.
Yeah. So
and if it gets to that, you need to replace them.
That's right. So it's already got one in there. You just need to look at it, and every tire has it.
So I thought I had a great thing with the Lincoln penny.
Well, that is a good thing. It's just a good. It's just funny to. We should get videos and have them upload them and send them to the radio station. People checking their tires with the penny.
Yeah. Send them to Tom at WOCA.com. But really, I mean, because of how the water stands on the roadway when it rains like this and all, hydroplaning's a real. When I got on the interstate this morning, I got on the interstate at 326. As I got on the interstate, right as the merge lane gets to the interstate, a pickup truck had run off the interstate and was down in the embankment. He was checking to make sure his equipment was good and everything, because I'm sure he hit a hydroplane and went off the interstate.
Yep.
And the higher rate of speed, the higher chance you got a hydroplane.
Yep. So tires and also brakes right now. Brakes would be a real important thing to check too, and making sure that our ABS or anti-lock braking systems and StabiliTrax and those kind of systems are all functioning correctly.
Those systems that, if they aren't functioning correctly, your car will operate like it was 1989.
1989. Actually, 1985.
Was it 85 when they first were introduced?
Yeah.
I didn't find out. Here's a trivia question, Mr. Car Guy. In 1939, that was the first year an air condition came as a item in a car. What car had the first air conditioner?
I have no idea.
The 1939 Packard.
1939 Packard. Okay.
First air conditioner was in the 1939 Packard.
I wonder how. I wonder if was it.
I wonder how
compressor?
Tucker missed that. I don't know. I don't know what the air conditioning system was in the Packard at that time, but the 1939 Packard had the first air conditioning system.
I need to look that up and see.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it was when they, it was a trivia. I got trivia books and all when I'm doing trivia, and this one was a multiple choice, and they gave you and I gave the multiple choice. I gave Cadillac, Edsel, Tucker, or Packard.
I would have probably went Tucker.
That's what I thought. I went Tucker, and it was the Packard.
So did you watch the mini series on the History Channel recently on the things that we manufactured that help make America great?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I find that kind of stuff very interesting. I wish I would have.
The food that makes America great, the stuff that we manufacture to make America great.
Well, it was like with the cars, how cars, airplanes, and televisions.
Right.
And how, man, what's amazing is like a lot of these forefathers that brought these things to existence, and a lot of these guys weren't nice people.
No. Henry Ford was maybe one of the biggest racists. He was an anti-Semite. He did not like the Jewish people. He actually was. Hitler talked about him in Mein Kampf, the book Hitler wrote, Mein Kampf. He talked about Henry Ford and how he was a great nationalist in America for the cause and everything. Henry Ford was a terrible person.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I'm watching this stuff, like even guys that made the television and stuff like that. These
not good people.
Man, these guys were ruthless.
Yeah, and you go back and look at the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts and all. They were ruthless too. Yeah. These were not nice people that ended up being tycoons.
Yeah.
Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. You're on with Matt Gibbs.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Hugh.
Hi. How you guys doing? Say, I was coming back from Orlando Airport the other day on a turnpike coming back to Ocala here, and it was a tremendous rainstorm, and going back to our lane, everybody was driving respectively slow, and on the other side, a truck jackknife, and it covered across the whole road, and there was a backup of about, it hadn't been 3-4 miles. It was unbelievable. When a truck jackknifes, what exactly happens? Is it the cab that gets out of control, or is it the back part of the truck, or what actually happens in a jackknife situation?
I'm not really, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure, but I would think that the cab probably got out of control first, and then here comes the trailer, because the trailer is trailering. It's behind the truck, so something probably happened with the truck, and then next thing you know, the trailer's going sideways. I happened to be driving down the road. I was driving down I-95 one day. We were heading to Tennessee, and in a truck. It wasn't a semi, but it was a dually truck, and pulling a probably about a 24-foot cargo trailer behind it. And we watched one of the tires come off the trailer, and then that lost control.
Oh my God!
Which caused the truck to lose control.
Yeah.
And it all went flipping over.
Yeah. You would think with talking about jackknifing, that if a truck had a heavy load, you probably would be better off, right, than having a lighter load or no load at all.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you, Hugh, but thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call. I saw coming down the mountain from Blowing Rock towards Lenore.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a truck, had Kentucky license plates on it, big dually, fifth wheel, that had a horse trailer.
Uh-oh.
And it hit some black ice, and the truck wiggled a little bit, but it got it back on. But as it wiggled, then the trailer hit the same black ice, and the back end of the trailer came around and went around and snapped the truck, where the truck ended up facing us and hit the side of the mountain and came to a stop. But if it went off the other side, it hit the side of the mountain at the bottom. And we were probably 1,200-1,300 foot drop from where it was, but there was sand and all. They purposely have a little thing there to try to stop you from doing that. But yeah, it was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. I was about 4 cars back, and you saw the truck wiggle, and I wouldn't have wanted to have been the oncoming traffic seeing that coming at me, man, down the mountain.
Yeah, I have a friend that hit some black ice. That almost killed him and his family.
Let me tell you, the scariest thing I've ever seen black ice was. I was behind a girl in a Pontiac Grand Am, probably one of those box car Grand Ams that they had, not the Grand National from like 80, so probably a 90, 91 Grand Am. And we were going by Tweetsie Railroad in between Boone and Blowing Rock. It is the exact same thing as Six Gun Territory.
Okay.
We're going by Tweetsie Railroad. She hit some black ice on 421 there and spun. And she spun 4 or 5 times and came to rest next to the curb, and she cranked that Grand Am up and drove off. I'm right behind her. I pulled over. Scared me to death. I had pulled over to let my heart calm down watching this car twirl, and she had just drove off like it was no big deal. I'm like, what in the hell just happened? Because I'm over here needing some sort of resuscitation, and she just cranked her car up and drove off. 3 days later, I'm on the Blue Ridge Parkway headed to the Avery County High School in Linville, Beach Mountain, Sugar Mountain, that area. Guy on a bicycle, one of those 10-speed bicycles, the competition-type bicycles like they're riding the Tour de France. He's bicycling. So I pull out about 35 miles an hour to go around him because he's on the parkway. And I hit the black ice. And I go to spinning. As I'm spinning, in my mind, I'm not scared. I'm not having a moment or anything. All I'm doing is I'm downshifting, trying to turn towards the spin. And all. I'm doing everything in my mind, everything that I've taught, that I've heard, the Bill Cosby thing, that turn in the direction of the spin. That didn't never make sense to me because that's like leaning to a left hook when it's on the way. But I knew that's what you're supposed to do because Shell had the little commercial where you're supposed to do. So all this is calculated in my head, and I'm trying to get this truck to stop. Nissan Hardbody. The last year they made the Nissan Hardbody, 1997, I bought a brand new one off the showroom floor. Frontier came out next year. I finally get the four-wheel drive stopped up against the side of the mountain. Car shuts off, obviously, straight shift. I crank it back up, drive off, didn't even hesitate, just like the girl did the Grand Am. I look back the rearview mirror, that bicyclist laid up on the side of the mountain. He needs resuscitation. So I learned, if you're in this car that's spinning, you don't have time to be scared.
Right.
But if you're behind the car that's spinning, it'll scare the hell out of you. I learned that. Good morning. You're on with Matt Gibbs.
Yeah, good morning. Henry Ford the Elder was a real anti-union guy, too, although he did pay the guys good wages. And when the son, Edsel, started to negotiate with the unions, Henry Ford brought in a Detroit gangster to break the unions. And when Edsel died, the grandson, Henry Ford II, brought in a retired FBI agent to get rid of Harry Bennett, and then they actually negotiated with the unions. It was a weird situation at Ford.
Not a nice guy, Henry Ford. Thanks for the call, Jim. Yeah, you watch those shows on the History Channel. The History Channel they don't sugarcoat it. They tell you these were bad guys.
Yeah.
And Henry Ford was a bad guy. He thought that the Jewish faith was the dregs of the earth. He was as close to being a Nazi fascist as you could get in the United States without, going Der Fuhrer. He really was.
Wow.
And was looked on fondly by Adolf Hitler. And by the way, Ford's plants in Europe kept selling arms and all, because they were making tanks and everything.
Right.
Kept making those and selling them to the German people. So Henry Ford's factories in Europe actually made things that killed American soldiers.
Didn't know this.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get a guy with a master's degree in history started. I can tell you all kind of things about history that they don't teach in normal classrooms because they don't want you to think bad about people. But Henry Ford, his factories in Europe stayed open the whole time and sold war supplies
So war supplies were were being made for the American people here in the States,
Yep.
and then the Germans
and the European factories were making them over there. And
that's kind of like the DuPont family that were making gunpowder.
exactly the same
for everybody.
Everybody. Yep, everybody. So yeah, and that's why Tucker wasn't very good at what he did, because Tucker was a nice guy,
right,
with good attitudes, with good ideas, and he got into an area where it wasn't nice guys running things, you know, and they crushed Tucker, crushed him. But you notice that there's anti-lock brakes on all kind of cars, there's all kind of things that Tucker had on his cars that are standard on every car today.
Right.
And Tucker built his cars when in the 40s, I think.
Yeah.
Good morning, you're on with Matt Gibbs.
Another little situation. Durant consolidated all of the companies that became General Motors, and he ran up against DuPont was buying their way into General Motors, and this guy Sloan, he was a real no-goodnik, and he forced Durant out.
Yeah. When General Motors was trying to, when it was all coming together, the history. Thanks, Jim. The history of the automakers in this country, not stellar.
No.
Okay, the Dodge brothers.
Oh yeah.
They were not good people either.
No.
And womanizers, just not good people. Carl Benz, not a very good person. The man who made the first combustible car. Everybody thinks Henry Ford made the first car.
No.
Henry Ford made it to where you could streamline it on a production line so it could become affordable.
Right.
Carl Benz made the first car. The first horseless carriage. Because they called them horseless carriages for a long time. But wouldn't you like to go? You know, if I ask you, I'm going to ask you as a matter of fact, I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Before 1950, what vehicle would you like to go back and restore that was before 1950?
Before 1950.
Yep.
Before 1950. Before 1950. Okay, so and I hate to say it now because just because of what we were just talking about.
Right.
But there wasn't very many of them made. And the reason I'd like to do this, it was because of something that my dad wanted to do. And that was a 1941 Ford Coupe.
Right.
And the reason he wanted to do it, he did a 1940.
Is that the little Deuce Coupe?
Little Deuce Coupe.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah. And it had a special grill, and they only made a few of them because Ford stopped making cars.
Because he started making the war effort.
Right. And there wasn't very many made. There wasn't very many out there. And my dad did a 40 and he did a 42, but he never found the 41. So that would have been something I would have liked to have done.
I would like to rebuild like a 35 or 36 Ford pickup.
Okay.
You know, like the Waltons drove.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to rebuild one with the wood planks and the little bitty bed. It basically was the front end of a Model T that they put a bed on. I mean, that's basically what it was.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and the just think about how the vulcanized rubber and all, and those, because they went from little bitty tires with wooden frames for the rims and everything. You didn't want to break down or get a flat tire or something in the 30s in a car.
No, you don't want to do nothing.
You were in a mess.
Yeah.
You were the best. You know, and then you had the gangster cars, the Oldsmobiles and the Cadillacs and all that they used that had the running boards on the side and everything. You had those. Those are nice, but I've just something about a 32, 33 Ford pickup.
Now, see, and if I could have done something that I would like to do for myself or have, I don't know if I'd get into restoring it myself. I probably would do some of it, but like the old, what is it, a 1909 or 1906 Oldsmobile, horseless.
They had it didn't have a steering wheel. It had a stick, but you moved like a joystick.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that'd probably be really cool to rebuild.
Yeah,
but their top end speed was 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. My golf cart goes faster than one of them things.
Right.
Well, but that was just because Oldsmobile means something to me personally, because it was the Oldsmobile dealership here in Ocala that gave me my first start.
Right.
that said, "Hey, I'll give you a shot at doing this."
Right.
And,
just think, even though it was 20 miles an hour, and we think about that today, 20 miles an hour. Who the hell travels 20 miles an hour? Okay. But back then to have 20 miles a day is what a horse did.
Yeah,
20 to 30 miles a day.
Right.
And you could do that in an hour.
You were uptown, buddy.
I mean, you could literally go from Philadelphia to New York in a day. Couldn't do that on a horse. But with a car, you could go from Philadelphia to New York in a day.
Yeah.
A whole day. Now you can go to Philadelphia and New York in 3 hours. And that's with traffic.
It's amazing how our perspectives have changed over the years.
Well, yeah. Remember, there was no speed limit signs.
Yeah, because you're only going to go 20 miles an hour.
There were no speed limit signs until the 40s.
And what was the original? And by the way, folks, today is the time.
History of cars.
Yeah, history. So, what was the original? What was the purpose of the
downtown areas so people walking across streets wouldn't get hit?
Okay.
The original speed limits were put in urban downtown areas and residential areas just off the downtown squares and everything.
Okay.
You get out of the wide open road,
and there was none.
Get it what you got, brother.
Now they did. Okay, did they?
The interstate systems brought in speed limits because Eisenhower wanted to make sure that people didn't get killed, and it made a bad blight on his interstate system. So, but interstate systems shuffled in. But between the 30s and the 50s, you got out on an open country road, whatever you could drive what you brought, brother.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But, remember, on those same little country roads and all, you may be driving what you brought, maybe doing 55, 60 miles an hour, got it topped out. And here comes Farmer John with his herd of cattle crossing the street. Got to be aware of that.
Yeah. He'd be like Larry and hitting a cow.
Yeah. But there's just something about going back to the crank and just knowing you're kicking a motor over and stuff.
I did that once.
Yeah. Just the nostalgia. I wouldn't want to drive a car like that every day. But it'd be a fun thing But, you go to Mecum Auto Sales and everything, cars like that, and they never show them on TV. They always show the muscle cars on TV.
Right.
But you go to the Mecum and all, you go to some of these, the Barrett Jackson, they have some of these older cars.
Oh, absolutely. And
some of these Model A's and Model T's and all sell for a bunch of money. But now, my dad always said that car dealers and car manufacturers regressed. They didn't progress. He always would say that. He said, because if they'd have just kept improving the Flathead 8, that it would have been perfect because it was so easy to work on and everything.
Right.
He thought that was the best motor because as a mechanic, you want the easiest thing to get to. You don't want, like today, these things you got to take the front clip off and remove the radiator and take the top of the motor off to get to the water pump.
Yeah,
know?
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You got to take the fender off to replace a battery.
My dad used to love the Flathead 8 or the Flathead 6. Both of them, because it's right, all the valves are right there on top.
It was all there, yeah.
And so then I guess he had a slant 6 he was kind of partial to, too.
Okay.
He liked the slant 6. He had a Chrysler Coronet.
Okay.
That he did something to. That car would get on down the road, brother.
Well, that might have been that. They did put Hemis in some of those Coronets.
Well, I don't know if this would have had a Hemi in it or not, but he took it out there and did something in the shop with it, and something about boring something or I don't know. But that Coronet, then he would go to Pecan Park Road. And Pecan Park Road was a drag road. Before there was, it wasn't legal drag racing, but it was just 60s, 70s, people drag race. And the old man would go out there and on a Friday night, he'd go out there and, boy, sit over there on that tree stump over there and watch your daddy. And he'd have his can of Schlitz in between his legs as he was going down racing with the Chrysler Coronet, racing 22, 23-year-old kids. My old man was in his 40s, wearing them out.
We got a couple of them guys right here in Ocala.
That Chrysler Coronet, that was a fast car.
Yeah, I bet you, I wonder. Yeah, you know, I bet you wish you had that car. Right
Man,
now.
I tell you what, that my old man had a Chrysler Corvette, and he had a 55, the bubble 55 Chevrolet.
Yeah,
It didn't have the fins on it. He gave it to my uncle and told my uncle, "You bring it back. That's going to be the boy's first car." My uncle left it sitting next to a house in Oklahoma. I still, every time I see my uncle, first thing I go, "Where's my damn car?" First thing I say to him every time I see him.
Where's it at?
House in Oklahoma somewhere. But he left that 55 Chevrolet. And, that was the bubble Chevrolet. It wasn't, when I was a little kid, I always likened it to it was a grown-up Volkswagen Bug. Because that 57 Chevrolet, that 55 Chevrolet was a bubble car. They used it as a police car. A lot of people use a police car.
Okay.
That Ford Fairlane was used as a police car, too.
Yep.
And did they always have interceptors in them, or were they that motor was a motor from the 70s, wasn't it?
The interceptors were interceptors. They'd
get you.
They'd go.
They'd go. Although I remember the Georgia State Patrol. We thought Georgia State Patrol was the coolest group in the world. They had 1986. They brought out Mustangs as the Georgia State Patrol cars.
Oh, the
but
GTs?
They were the LX. No, they had the LXs, not the GTs. They were lighter, but with a GT motor in it.
Okay.
They would get after you in them cars. That's when Georgia Highway Patrol was really getting after you, chasing you and stuff like that.
I got chased once.
Yeah. Look, what was the adage in Georgia? Go to Georgia on vacation, come back to Florida on probation. Matt, tell them where they can find you.
You can give me a call at 352-690-1993, or you can come visit us at 1800 Northwest 10th Street.
Matt Gibbs, talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
American Moms coming up next.
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
How to attract owls to your backyard. That's coming up on This Land of Ours.
I was probably a little bit like you. There was a lot of talk about the COVID-19 vaccines. I didn't know what to believe. And I tell you, everyone has an opinion.
September 3rd.
Some of my friends got
Treasury Secretary
vaccinated
Janet
and
Yellen
some were
will
against.